In the world of tech, I do question myself if I really need a flagship phone. This is the Vivo X300 FE, the fun addition to the X300 Ultra. And less is more, as they say, but sometimes more is more. This is the 200mm extender that you can put on the FE, and this is the first time that they've ever made something like this for a non-flagship. This creates a crazy combination for photographs on a non-flagship. Let's get on with the video. Take a photo. I was about to go shoot, but then this happened. Do like 10x on your eyes. Whoa, that's so cool.
The ultrawide camera has an 8-megapixel sensor with a 15mm focal length, and that's 0.6 on the phone itself. In broad daylight, the colors and details are retained beautifully, quite like you expect from a phone at this price range. But the catch is, the 8-megapixel sensor is exactly the same as the ultra-wide camera from the previous generation, the Vivo X200 FE. Although the camera module is the same, the ultra-wide on this year's camera handles the HDR cleaner and the contrast is much more pleasing. Although the details aren't consistent across all lighting conditions. For example, on an overcast day, it's hard to complement the colors and details. The grass here looks fuzzy and the AI processing is awfully clear when zooming into the details. On a bright and sunny day, however, the images are much cleaner and pleasant to look at. So if you're upgrading to this phone specifically for the ultra-wide camera, I'd recommend sticking to a bright and sunny day for clear photos.
I feel like this is alright, but maybe we can take this somewhere else. Let's try this out for street photography. So the main camera has a 50-megapixel Sony sensor, and it's easily one of the most enjoyable things about this new phone. The photos are bright and colorful, and I think one of the best things that this phone could offer is the HDR capabilities from the main sensor.
Dude, usually look at he has curly hair. Look at the edge separation though. Oh, that's really good. I feel like your hair should be our testing, like a fixed test.
It offers a versatile performance in various different lighting conditions, meaning even in mediocre or difficult lighting conditions, you could still get a decent image with the main sensor. But there is a noticeable color shift when you're shifting from the ultra-wide sensor to the main sensor. Actually, not only that, you can notice a whole massive jump in image quality from the 8-megapixel ultra-wide sensor to the much bigger 50-megapixel Sony sensor. This year's X300 FE includes an 8K 30fps resolution, which I didn't really end up recording much because most of the time the 4K 60 proves to be a really good camera. What really surprised me, however, was how stable the camera was at all focal lengths. And you know I have really shaky hands, so it's pretty difficult to get a good video sample to show you guys, but however, I never had that problem with this phone. In this shot, it was super stable even though the road itself that I was on wasn't stable at all. My biggest qualm is that the ultra-wide is only available at 1080-30, which is pretty dated for 2026. But I think they make it up with how great the low light performance is. But more on that later. Now the telephoto camera is where it gets really fun for me. It starts at 73mm and ends at 2439mm. A quick compression test from the ultrawide shows you exactly how the image quality changes from ultrawide all the way to the telephoto. The lens on the telephoto is extremely fun to use when going out and about in the city. The details are sharp and the colors are pleasing, and at 73mm there's minimal AI processing, which is a huge win for my creative brain. And this is a 200mm telephoto extender that you can put on this and pushes all the way up to get this 1600mm. And when you slap the telephoto converter on, you can see a huge jump in quality from the 243mm on the optical lens and the 200mm on the telephoto converter lens. Now the lens itself is a flagship grade Zeiss periscope telephoto. Pairing that with the Sony sensor, you can get a consistently reliable image across different lighting conditions. Another big win for them is the obvious stabilization. On the bottom you see how shaky the original recording looks like and how well the photo removes itself from jitters and sudden jumps in movement, creating this really smooth footage. But of course there are some setbacks to this setup. For example, there are huge jumps in the footage when you zoom in through the three lenses. And the video quality on the teleconverter lens could improve greatly. You can barely see the details on the feathers of this bird, for example. So you still can't really expect the same telephoto quality when comparing this phone to other flagship titles. This is the front camera. You can see how it renders my skin tone. Bad light subjects aren't really done very well, but when the lighting is good on the face, it does do its job relatively well. The thing about portraits on this phone is that there's a huge level of processing that happens after you take the photo. You can actually see processing happening in real time here. And although the HDR looks really good, I don't necessarily look like this in real life. You can see that there's a bit of skin whitening, but also a little bit of skin smoothing that happens in real time. But the great thing about this camera is that it does edge separation incredibly well. The edge separation on my hair actually looks pretty natural, and I wouldn't even notice unless someone points out the edge separation on any of the portrait photos taken on this phone. There's also a ton of AI effects to play around with. For example, in this one, you could add a lens flare to make it a little bit more cinematic, kind of like a Michael Bay look, but also in this one where we've covered everything like some snow. Another effect, you could change the background into some anime, cartoony painted style for the background, and also a bunch of other stuff in the phone itself for you to try with. Overall, it's pretty good for portraits, but the skin processing thing does get pretty obvious sometimes.
1, 2.
Little POV shot for you guys. Isn't that insane? It's kind of fun though.
Now, the low light photography was the first thing I tested out on this camera, but actually it's the one that surprised me the most. The first thing I noticed when shooting this is that the main camera's HDR performed so well in low light. The colors and contrasts are really punchy and vibrant, and I really enjoy going to like colorful places with a lot of neon lights because that's where I think it shines the most. On a compression test, we'll see that the ultrawide is still kinda okay, but from the main camera onwards, it really retains the quality and colors that I really like about this camera. In terms of how it handles exposure, it's pretty versatile across different lighting conditions, but it does perform better when there are supporting light sources like street lamps, signboards, and ambient lighting. Without supporting lights, you can notice fuzziness in the shadows, and the AI processing gets more aggressive to make up for the lack of light. Now, this does mean that the sky and clouds does tend to get fuzzy because that's usually the darkest part of the image in low light, so I haven't really had much luck in capturing the beautiful night sky. I also encountered another problem with the 10x zoom. There's this halo effect on the edges that's not very pleasing, and sometimes processing struggles with balancing the exposure and white balance. In this example, the skin tone in these two images are massively different, even though they were taken 2 seconds apart. But on the main camera, I'm more happy than not with how some of these images turned out. And let's not forget about how good the video on the main camera looks like. The stabilization, the colors, the exposure. There's a lot to love, especially coming from a phone at this price range. And in typical Vivo fashion, there's a lot of effects that you can use to get different looks on your images, which I didn't really try a lot, but when I did try it, I was actually more pleasantly surprised than not. My favorite is the black and white high contrast filter because it's really fun to play with the light and shadows in a scene. But is a 200mm lens really necessary for a fan edition phone? Now, with all the new exciting updates, who is this phone actually for? Although it has a great main camera sensor that performs really well across all different lighting conditions, the ultrawide is still an 8-megapixel sensor that's outdated in 2026. And it's capped at 1080-30. That means you can't really get all those really cool and dynamic shots with the 4K 60. And another bigger downside is that it has no log recording, so that means you can't really do a lot of creative things with this phone. Which makes me think that this phone isn't really for those people who want all the ultra features that comes with flagship phone. It is, after all, the fun addition to the Ultra. So I think this phone is really for people who really want to have fun without the hassle of having a huge flagship phone in their pocket, which is kind of exactly my experience with this phone. It's not exactly ultra, but it is a lot of fun to have. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you so much for watching.